About it. All right, I believe we are live. Hello, arty peoples, and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy Klein, and I am your host this evening. And as you can see, I'm being joined by several people. I'm so excited. So please welcome Jeff Olson, as you all know and love.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, the Art Education Director for Royal Talens America. And we also have Vic Hollins, let me say your name right, joining us, who is the art ambassador for Royal Talens. So everyone, please make sure to show some love. And thank you guys so much for joining me on the show.
Well, it's great to be here. Great to be here for sure.
Now, I do know, Jeff, you're going to have a wonderful presentation for us, and then Vic is going to go through a demo. And if you guys are interested in anything that Vic is showing as she does the demonstration, make sure to go to the website, jerrysartorama.com, and type in today's class code. That is JL238, and that will bring up the teacher's card, which has everything that Vic should be using. And without further ado, I will let you guys kind of take over and tell us all about the wonderful products.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Emmy. It's great to be back and great to see everybody again. Thanks for joining us. I have a presentation I'm going to share with everybody on FineTec. So we're going to kind of take a deep dive, a little bit of history on watercolors in general, specifically some of the background on this wonderful product. And then I'm going to turn it over to the super talented Vic Hollins, who's going to do a demo so you can see this stuff in action. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the presentation and let me know, Emmy and everyone, when we can see it. You'll see some bedazzling special effects there. All right, here we go. So today we're going to talk about FineTec, specifically defining pearlescent watercolors, which is really what FineTec is all about. They are just spectacular for folks who have seen them in person. They're literally little jewels that radiate light from the pans and the sets, and then painting with them is equally a wonderful experience. So let's take a look at a little bit of that. But before we jump into FineTec specifically, a little background on Royal Talens. Royal Talens is a Dutch manufacturer of fine art materials, established in 1899 in Apeldoorn in the Netherlands. Apeldoorn is about an hour outside of Amsterdam, about an hour east by train. So it's getting close to the German border. We have been making paints there, specifically Rembrandt watercolors, which you see some of the original tubes in the background. And this is one of our original catalog posts for the watercolors and for the oils back then. Pretty fun to see these old images. I love going through our old archives and digging these things up. And here is an image from the manufacturing facility. Look at all those steam-powered machinery. Now, of course, it's all electronic and much more updated than this, but really fun to kind of peek in and see how they were making paints back then. Royal Talens manufactures several prominent brands globally. Of course, Rembrandt oils and watercolors, Van Gogh oil, watercolors, pastels, Amsterdam all acrylics, and we distribute FineTec in North America. A lot of folks are always asking me, why are you called Royal Talens? So we were started out as Talens, and then in 1949, Queen Wilhelmina, who was a big fan of Royal Talens, bestowed upon us the predicate of Royal. So it was due to our contributions both culturally and economically to the Netherlands. And so ever since then, we've been living up to our status as the paint makers or color makers to the Queen. And then finally today, we have affiliates all over the world, and I am employed by the North American affiliate based in Northampton, Massachusetts, which was established in 2015. So our products have been available in the US and North America since 1903, but always through a third-party distributor. So today we have our own warehouse, our own customer service staff here for everybody in both Canada and the US. A little bit about FineTec. They have a really fun and long history as well. They are nestled in a little Franconian village in Germany, outside of Nuremberg. The name of the parent company for FineTec is Drawtech, and they're in this wonderful little community here. Seelig was the original innovator for the FineTec brand, and Drawtech is the parent company for both those. Drawtech has a rich history of German-owned family company, several brands under their umbrella, established in 1872. Another product line that you might be familiar with that we also distribute at Royal Talens is the Angora color line. It's both opaque and transparent watercolors. And Drawtech is the complete patent owner on the FineTec brand, registered trademark holder in the United States, and Royal Talens, as I mentioned, is the sole distributor of FineTec in North America. All right, so here's a little bit of our agenda. We're going to talk about the composition of watercolor, what's actually in the product. I'm going to talk a little bit about the binder. That's the unique features. All binders really are what determine the working properties of a material. We're going to talk about coloring agents, pigments specifically. And this is really important because this is at the heart of what makes FineTec so special. And then introducing FineTec, we'll take a dive into the line, look over some of the benefits of using it. We'll review the assortment, so the products that are available. And then talk about the experience. What's it like to work with these materials? And that's when I'm going to pass it over to Vic for our demo today. All right, so let's talk about the composition of watercolors first. Just to keep it real basic, we have a coloring agent. In artist watercolors, that's primarily pigments. And we see some wonderful examples of the pigments as they appear in our facility in Appledorn. These are really incredible in person. I mean, they're really bright in this picture, right? But in person, I swear, it's like a light is glowing out of the bags. The colors are just so luminescent. And you can see here the station where the dry ingredients, the pigments, for example, get mixed with the binder. And there's some paint being mixed in this picture. In watercolors, we have pigments. Sometimes dyes are used also. The main binder, the traditional binder for watercolors is gum arabic, and that's the binder that you'll find in FineTec. Also, there can be other ingredients added to help improve or modify the working properties of the paint. Sometimes some pigments can be stubborn and don't want to behave, so we add things like humectants that help the paints absorb more moisture. There are flow enhancers, preservatives, and there's a whole array of materials that help with that. And then, of course, water. Water is the primary vehicle for the paint. So let's talk about the binder. Binder for watercolors, for the FineTec watercolors, is 100% pure gum arabic. So gum arabic is also known as acacia gum, and that's because it is found in sub-Saharan Africa, and it grows on acacia trees. Acacia trees are one of the oldest living organisms on the planet. And most of the gum arabic is harvested from wild trees in countries like Sudan, Somalia, and Senegal. And this is an image from Senegal here of the gum arabic being harvested. And that's where most of the artist grade gum arabic comes from. We call it gum arabic because during the Middle Ages, when it was traveling up through North Africa, that's how Europeans referred to it. So that name has stuck over time. It's interesting feature of gum arabic that makes it unique to other types of paint binders like linseed oil for oils or acrylic polymer resins for acrylic paints. Both of those, when they dry, create a hard film. Watercolors don't do that. Gum arabic is actually absorbed into the paper, and that's why watercolors are permeable and can be re-wet, or color can be lifted. So there are unique qualities to the gum arabic that make it especially suited for the working properties that we're familiar with in watercolor paints. Somebody asked me if it was used for anything else besides paint, and absolutely, actually, that's the smallest application. It's one of the main ingredients in sodas and colas. So it's a product that's used in the food industry primarily. All right, let's talk about
that being
pigment.
said, though, don't
What's
eat gum
that?
arabic. Do not eat your gum arabic, though.
Yeah, it's
Whatever
not the same.
Don't eat it.
Don't mix it in water and think it's going to taste like Coke. It just doesn't work. All right, so let's talk about pigments. So we've got our binder, which is gum arabic, and now we need the coloring agent of pigment. And pigments historically are qualified or categorized by their origin. And by that, I mean where they're derived from. And we have three primary categories, and those are organic, inorganic, and synthetic. So organic pigments are those pigments that come from plants or animals. And I have a fun example here. These little seashells are referred to as murex. I think I called them musex once. So they're not a nasal decongestant. They're murex, which is a type of sea snail that's commonly found in the Mediterranean. And the color that they generate is known as Tyrian purple, also called imperial purple. And it's an ancient pigment and dye. It was first created by the Phoenicians. They would gather up thousands of these snails, and their excretion made this beautiful color. It was a light, fast color. It was a beautiful color. And interestingly enough, the word Phoenician in ancient Greek is the land of purple. So the name that was given to the culture comes from their creation or manufacture of this particular pigment. It got its name imperial purple from the Romans because they favored it in their imperial regalia and clothing. And one thing that was unique about this, unlike a lot of other organic pigments, is it was very, very light fast. Matter of fact, the color became richer over time, so that wonderful purple that it was when it first dyed actually became a really deep reddish purple as it patinaed. And that made the clothing that was used on even more valuable. So it was expensive to make, and then it became prized for what it symbolized. So that's an example of an organic pigment. Inorganic pigments are the rocks beneath our feet, literally. They are mineral-based pigments, and they are some of the oldest pigments known in the making of art. Pigments like the oxides, and we have one here. This is red oxide or iron red oxide. It has had several names. It still has several names. Names like the bloodstone, sanguine, caput mortem, terra rosa, Venetian red, and many, many more names. Natural iron oxide red is pigment red 102, and it's found around the globe and is literally can be seen in cave paintings from Spain to Australia. It was dug right out of the earth. It still is, and formed into sticks and mixed into paints. Favored from prehistory all the way through the Renaissance. Natural iron oxide was actually used in a lot of the drawing tools for those wonderful drawings we see, like from Leonardo, Raphael, from Michelangelo. Natural iron oxide today are a synthetic pigment, and that's pigment red 101. And literally they are minerals that are high in iron, and that iron oxidizes and gives it a red color. So some background there on a fun example of an inorganic pigment. And finally, we have synthetic pigments. So synthetic pigments begin as an organic or inorganic source, and then we synthesize them. We literally cook them up. It can be literally heating it or exposing it to other types of chemicals or other types of pigments. And we create from that a new pigment. We synthesize pigments for a lot of reasons. We do it to improve their working properties. We do it to alter the color. Many of the modern pigments that we use today are synthetic colors, but it isn't something that is only part of the modern era. Artists have been alchemists in their studio, if you will, always experimenting, exploring, trying to find new ways to make new colors. And this background image is an example of one of those pigments that have been famous since the Renaissance, and that's lead white. The way lead white was made, this is called the stack method that we're seeing here. Coils of lead were put into clay pots filled with vinegar. Cow dung was packed around them to help generate heat, and the lead would oxidize, creating this white crust on it. That was flaked off into bowls, dried in the sun, ground up into wonderful lead white pigment that was the premier and preferred white pigment all the way up into the 20th century. So an example of a very old synthetic pigment. So we have organic, inorganic, and synthetic. And synthetic pigments are important when we start to look at what we're going to be talking about with FineTec. And FineTec, we use inorganic synthetic pigments that are based on mica. So mica are a group of silicates. They're a mineral. There are numerous silicate minerals that are used. Muscovite is most often used in pigments. When they're pure, which is what you see in the background image here, they're colorless or white, kind of an off-white color you can see here. But depending on impurities within the mica or the silica, they can be brown, blue, green, pink, reddish, all sorts of different colors. Some of the impurities that cause those colors can be things like titanium, dioxide, chromium, iron, aluminum, cobalt, copper, a whole list of minerals that can be found that alter our perception of color. These metals form a surface layer that covers the mica platelets, and we perceive that as variations in color. Mica can also be mixed with other pigments and dyes, so you can actually dye the mica pigment. And we also oxidize them on purpose. So we create layers of oxidation, which creates literally a prism effect. And that's why I have that little graphic in the middle there. It's synthetically enhanced pigments that refract and reflect light to create the pearlescent effects that we see in paints like FineTec. So let's talk about how this dimensional pigment works. So here are 3 examples of types of pigments and how they reflect and refract light. So one-dimensional pigment you see here on the left is how most pigments refract and reflect light. So we have the surface of the pigment, the light waves hit it. What is reflected back is what we perceive as the color. What is absorbed, we don't see. And so here you see an example where we perceive this particular pigment as being blue. Two-dimensional pigments, which include mica-based pigments and families of colors like metallics, reflect light like a mirror. So all of the light waves will hit the surface of the pigment, and all of those light waves will reflect back. So we get this really intense reflective quality that's literally two-dimensional on the surface. And that's sometimes, if you've ever used with metallic paints, as you walk around it and as the light shifts on it, it literally seems to move or rise above the surface, especially on a dark ground. Finally, we have three-dimensional pigments, and these are super fun. These are the pearlescents, or what we refer to often as interference pigments. So what happens is you have that base mica platelet, and then on top of it are layers of oxidation that have been synthesized onto the pigment, and they reflect and refract the light back at different angles and different depths into the layers of oxidation, and the light waves actually interact and interfere with each other, and that's where we get that prism of light, or sometimes what we refer to as flip-flop, where we'll see one color from one direction and another color from a different direction. So that's what's happening on a microscopic level, if you will, within the colors that we're going to be using and seeing used today. Oh, and then I got some fun graphics. There we go. All right. So introducing FineTec. So what is FineTec? So it's a variety of color options altogether. So there are 68 total colors to choose from. It's really a fantastic color range. Probably the most choices of pearlescent colors in any watercolor out there. They're highly pigmented artist grade paints. So there's tons of color in these. And you'll see that firsthand when Vic starts working with them. And you see it as soon as you open the package. These pans just radiate like nobody's business. The binder is all natural gum arabic. So it's purified. No other types of binders are used in the making of this paint except for gum arabic. The pans have this wonderful wavy surface. The ones in the picture here have actually been used. You can kind of see some of the waves on the side, but you'll see some examples of it as I continue on. And that's because they are hand poured into the rectangular pans. And that's something to keep in mind. FineTec, the true FineTec, will always be in a rectangular pan. Customizable assortment with open stock. So you can buy pre-curated sets, and there are several of them. But there's also open stock, so you can create your own palette to your liking. The light fastness is excellent. So for all of you artists who are interested in the archival quality of your materials, the FineTec brand is completely archival, with the exception of the 6 neon pigments. Those are phosphorus-based, dye-based colors, as are all neon colors. So those are not light fast like the rest of the line. There are no animal ingredients used in these, and that's really important to a lot of artists and users out there. So there's no animal ingredients used in these. You could say that these are completely vegan products. The materials are all ethically sourced. So there are some mica that come from dubious regions of the world. All of the mica that's used in the pigments for FineTec is ethically sourced all the way down the chain. And they're also sustainably manufactured exclusively with solar power. The FineTec facility actually generates more solar power and energy than it uses and distributes that out into the community. So it's pretty neat how they have use sustainability in the manufacture and mission of the company and making of this paint. And also these paints are non-toxic, so they conform to the D4236 of the American Society of Testing Materials. So they're completely safe to use in your studio, not harmful to you as an individual or the environment. All right, so let's look at the two lines. So we have FineTec Classic and FineTec Premium. So let's start with the Classic line. There are 30 pearlescent colors and 6 iridescent colors. So the opaque pearlescent shades add a really gorgeous luster, and you can see some examples. There's those wave patterns I talked about from the hand-poured pans. And this is what we refer to as a two-dimensional color, like the pigment example I showed you earlier. So they reflect light like a mirror, and you'll see that right away when you look at these colors on the surface of the painting. The iridescent tones kind of flicker and have a luminous transparency, and these are those three-dimensional interference pigments that I was talking about, that prismatic color. There's also 7 different sets, and then there's also empty palette boxes so you can make your own set. The premium line includes 2 metallics, 16 pearlescents, 8 flip-flops, and 6 neons. So the premium line has much more diversity and more exclusive pigments. The 2 metallics I mentioned are fantastic. They're actually real silver, and high reflection gold contain bits of silver in the paint. So there's actually silver in both these 2 metallics that add to their luminescence and the reflective quality of the two-dimensional pigment. The flip-flop colors, which I mentioned that term, also referred to as interference pigments, change and shift with the angle of the lighting, and they are what we refer to as shape-shifting three-dimensional color. Fluorescent neon colors can be illuminated with UV light, and you see some examples here in the image, and the yellow literally glows in the dark by itself. It's pretty incredible. And then finally, there are 5 sets you can choose from in the FineTec Premium line, and an empty palette box, again, to curate your own colors. So the FineTec experience. So what are the working properties? What can you expect when you're painting with them if you've never used these before? So one thing you're going to find out right away is they're very easily and quickly activated with water. Vic's going to use a mister, I think. I just drop a little water in off my brush, and they're immediately activated. So you don't have to sit and wait for these to soften up to paint. You can get to work right away. There's excellent color release and flow with a brush, pen, or nib. So the color just spreads out like butter on the surface. It's going to amaze folks who have never used it before. FineTec have been popular with calligraphers for many, many years, and they work excellent with combination of pen or nib, really hold a sharp edge. There's excellent opacity in a single application. Now, there are some colors that are a little more transparent, but for the broad spectrum of the range, you're going to see excellent opacity both on a white ground and a dark ground, white being the traditional surface for watercolor painting, but these are also spectacular on black paper, and Vic's going to share that in the demo. They're very easy and predictable control for these. You can really fine lines and sharp edges. They don't bleed like a lot of other watercolors do. You can make them do that by adding more water, so you can use them in all those familiar techniques. But for those folks who are looking to create some sharp edges with their watercolors, you're really going to be amazed at how well these colors hold. It's easy to create washes and even coverage. Washes are the nemesis for a lot of folks starting out with watercolor, right? To get that nice even wash or a nice even gradated wash. These colors really make that easy. It's wonderful to create washes with these and then paint over them in either glazes or just over in darker colors. They could be mixed with any other watercolor. I get asked that a lot. You absolutely can incorporate this into the palette you're already working with, either over as a glaze or directly mixing the colors and creating new colors. You could literally take one of these metallics and make metallic colors out of every other color in your existing palette. They can be used in mixed media applications, so they're great with graphite, with charcoal, with ink, with gouache, with acrylic, and Vic's got some great examples of that. There's no sinking or dulling when they're dry. I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but when I paint with some metallic colors or have paint with some metallic colors in watercolor, as they dry, it kind of becomes more dull. They lose that shine or sheen that they had when they were first applied. I think the opposite happens with FineTec. They're beautiful as you're applying them, but as they dry, the opacity increases and the luminosity increases. They just stand out, even from several feet away as you're walking up towards them. It's like, what is glowing on that piece of paper? There's no pigment transfer when they're dry, so you can reactivate them. You could lift the color by adding water or wet brush, but if you just rub your hands over the dry surface, you're not going to get any of that glittery mica pigment on your fingers or your clothes. The binder, that 100% gum arabic binder, really holds fast, and you don't see that kind of overwash of glitter on everything that you're working on. They work best when they're used over other watercolors. I mentioned glazing with them is fantastic results, and mixtures I talked about, and definitely on black paper, and you're going to see that in the demonstration. The pans last a long time. They're larger than your typical half pan, so there's lots and lots of color to work with here. And now we're going to have Vic jump in and show you firsthand. So enough of me talking about it, but I wanted to do a quick intro, you guys, to Vic for folks who have not met her before. She's a Tucson-based artist, and she has a very unique and really cool body of work spanning many different styles and mediums. And you'll be able to see some of that in her studio today. Her illustrations really embody her traditional background in education. She got her BFA, and juxtaposed with her passion for comics, murals, and mixed media. She uses the desert. I mentioned she is from Tucson, and she uses that along with femininity as her muse. Her paintings capture the dynamic beauty and vibrant colors of women, animals, and patterns that she paints. She works with a multitude of different materials, including watercolor, but you'll see other materials like inks, pencil, pastel, really across the board expertise. And as an ambassador for Royal Talens, you'll see her working with our watercolor brands like FineTec, our gouache, our colored pencils, and just a long, long list. Vic is my go-to for mixed media and water media. So everybody, please join me in welcoming Vic. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. There we go. Vic, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so much for the introduction, Jeff.
You bet.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and switch over to my demo cam whenever you guys are ready for me. And before we begin painting, I'm going to show off some really pretty swatches that I've made of all the different types of pigments and colors that Jeff was talking about. So the first one that I wanted to go over were the pearlescent colors. These ones, in my opinion, are the most versatile of the two, just because of how opaque they are. And these are the 2D pigments that Jeff was talking about. So they have them in a whole variety of different colors. Definitely a lot of different rainbow colors to choose from, but they also have a pretty extensive line of gold and silver as well. And here is that pearl silver and then high reflection gold that Jeff was talking about. Those are both the premium pigments that hold the silver inside of them. So hopefully you'll be able to see that through the camera. They really jump off the page in person.
Isn't that great? Gold is not gold, right?
Yeah.
There are so many to choose from.
Yeah, I know. Look at all those different yellows.
Yeah, warm and cool.
I'm still not even mad. Not even mad that that's not gold. Look
I know,
how
right?
cute those are.
My favorite one is this champagne silver. It's like a really
cool.
pretty mix between the gold and the silver. I highly recommend that one. So
those are great swatches, Vic.
thank you. Yeah, so that's just on the black Van Gogh paper, so you can see the difference on that black and white. So those are just the pearlescent swatches. The next ones are the iridescent swatches. So as you can see right away, these show up a lot better on that black paper as opposed to the white. The difference between the top, the bottom, and the two, the difference between the two on the top are the standard pigments, and on the bottom are those pearlescent pigments. So these interference colors have a little bit more sparkle to them, but pretty similar shades altogether. So really light kind of fairy shine on the top, and then a definitely more intense shine on the bottom. So these are really effective to use on dark backgrounds or black paper.
It really is amazing. Yeah, I mean, they're almost invisible until you tilt them on the white strips, but they just pop off of that black surface.
All right, so the next ones are actually my favorite. These were the ones that Jeff was talking about. The flip-flop colors. They're also known as chameleon colors because of how much they change just depending on the light, how you're viewing them, how the artwork is being held. All of these are premium pigments except for the Mystic color. The Mystic colors is standard or classic pigment, and that one comes in the 12 set. But yeah, these are really gorgeous as well. And then last but not least are the neon colors. And these ones actually aren't metallic at all. They're kind of a matte slash satin kind of shade. You can't actually see how neon these are on the video quality just because the light drowns them out so much. But they are really bright, almost like a highlighter hue. And this yellow actually glows in the dark, which is really cool. I actually have a piece of artwork that I did. Hopefully the yellow will stand out a little bit better on that. But all the yellow around the ends of the fireflies actually glow in the dark when you view this at night. So on my Instagram, I have a little video showing it if you're interested in checking that out.
Yes, definitely. Please tell us what your Instagram handle is so we can all digitally up your artwork.
Awesome. Yeah, it's Vic Hollins Art. So yeah, you should be able to see that on there. But yeah, this neon is really gorgeous. It really amps up any painting that you're incorporating that neon into. You get a lot of saturation right off the bat. So I'm just going to show a couple other examples of some artwork that I've done using the FineTec. I'll start out on the black paper just to give you guys a couple examples of stuff that you can paint using these. This koala is just painted with gouache and acrylic inks, but the background is actually that interference purple. And those are the colors that show up best on that dark background, but it really gives the koala a lot of dimension. You don't have to do a whole painting based off of, you know, the metallic paints. You can just incorporate it into paintings that you already may have. Just have a couple more. This one is done using the pearlescent pigments. So a lot of different variety of colors and layering. I actually, for most of these colors, used a tinting method that I'm going to show you guys at the end of the demo.
That was beautiful. I love the chameleons. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Yeah. Everything rainbow all the time, right?
Yes. 100% and sparkle. Yes.
And sparkles. Yep. Rainbow and sparkles. We're just going to continue with that trend. This one is still on that Black Van Gogh paper, just using the pearlescent colors. So you get some really pretty sheen.
You can see what I mean by that 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional, how that gold, as you tilt it, just kind of elevates above the other, like it hovering over the surface almost.
Yeah, it definitely helps it pop right off the page. But you don't have to do it on black paper. You can also do it on white or lighter backgrounds. I tend to use a lot of the metallics in my mixed media watercolor, especially that interference over top of the dark backgrounds. You get some really pretty effects. But that pearlescent can be as subtle or as intense as you want it to be. So you can kind of see it pop up throughout.
Yeah.
And it's all light fast, so you don't have to worry about it fading out of your art. Just a couple more, and then we'll go ahead and start painting together. This one, I went ahead and used that gold metallic for the pattern in there. And then I used some colored pencils over top in some areas. So you get a little bit of that metallic sheen, just depending on how you view the piece, which is pretty cool.
That's gorgeous. We are getting a lot of people going. Your work is so inspirational, and they are just, there's a lot of oohs and ahs happening in the chat right now.
Thank you. Yeah, me and Jeff were talking about it. We definitely like to show some examples on how you can use the metallic paints, because a lot of people love them and they're a lot of fun, but they're like, I don't know how I would use this. And the thing about it is you can use as little or as much as you'd like to. In your own standard illustrations too. So, all right.
These are all great, Vic. Thanks for sharing.
Oh yeah, of course.
Definitely.
All right, guys. So let's go ahead and start painting. I also want to show off the palettes in case if you haven't seen them before. This is what a slightly used FineTec palette looks like. They have them in a couple different sizes. This is one of the 12 sets that they have. They normally are a 6 set, something like this. But they're a really lightweight aluminum palette. You have plenty of room to mix up here on the top. And then those pans are really easy to take in and out. So you can always swap them out if you're on the go and you want to customize your palette, or if you run out of a color, which, you know, sometimes happens, but these do really actually last quite a long time. I haven't had to replace any of mine yet. So this is a pearlescent palette. We're actually going to start out with those interference colors. And these are the ones that I was talking about how, and Jeff was talking about, how they show up better on the black paper as opposed to the white. So Jeff was saying that he likes to just use a wet brush and drop some water into his pans. I like to use a little spray bottle. Any type of water spray bottle will work just fine. And I'm just going to show you guys in real time what we're talking about, how these show up better on the black than on the white. So you can just work your brush into the FineTec. And you can see how that blue shows up really bright on the black paper. And then as soon as you go over the white, it kind of just disappears a little bit. You can see it when you hold it up to the light, but it definitely has more of an impact on that black. So because I'm going to be doing a couple different layers on my stag beetle, I'm going to start out with the iridescent, mainly because they're the most transparent. So we're going to be able to utilize those the best for this step. And I'm just going to plug them in a couple areas where we have some highlights. The reason why I chose a beetle is because there's a lot of black actually in the beetle shell. So basically most of the work is done for me when I'm starting out on a black surface. I don't have to worry about plugging in a bunch of shadows. I just have to kind of do the opposite where I build up highlights. And they also have some pretty cool, like shiny bits on them. So I'm just gonna pull that up to show you. So that's just me plugging in that blue. Now I'm just gonna take a wet brush and blend that out in a couple different areas. So the more water you add to it, the more diluted it's going to get. It's going to act just like your standard watercolor in that way. And you can always go back in, like Jeff was saying, and scrub it up a little bit because they are water soluble. So I'm just going to kind of blend those around.
It's amazing how quickly that just little drops of color can immediately make it look like those are its like. I love how that works.
Yeah, it's pretty magic. It just kind of paints itself when you're painting metallic things too. It's extremely helpful. So next I'm going to go in with the interference green, and I'm just going to kind of paint a little bit of a base layer on the open wings.
And ironically enough, somebody actually just asked the question that just ran through my brain. That drawing that you did on the black, what did you use for that?
That's a great question. I just used a white watercolor pencil. You can use, you know, a white charcoal pencil. For bigger paintings, I will use white transfer paper. Anything like that should be just fine. And then if you are using a transfer paper, sometimes you'll get some like cloudy areas. You can always just rub that extra white graphite right off. This is the Black Van Gogh watercolor paper, and it's pretty durable. It's sized for watercolor, so it sits on top really nicely, and it can take quite a bit of abuse. It also doesn't buckle really that easily. You really have to put a lot of water in it to make it buckle. So like, for example, I don't even have to tape this illustration down and it will probably dry just fine. So great question.
Very, very awesome. So I'm trying to also read a couple of the other questions.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people are asking about the pans, kind of how big, like how deep are they?
Yeah.
As far as the size?
So they're huge. They're really big
Yeah.
watercolor pans. They're definitely full size. This green is one of my favorite colors. I'm sure you can tell because there's a giant hole right in the middle of it. They really do last a long time. And then these ones in particular for the iridescent set, it's a little bit harder to tell what colors are which, just because they have almost like a milky tone to them. The other colors you can tell right away. But yeah, these iridescent colors, the more you kind of layer them up on top of each other, the more they get kind of this like mother of pearl white milky tone to them. So if you want them to have a more vibrant color, you'll actually use them a little bit thinner. So they're unique in that way. They're a little bit different than the pearlescent colors.
Now, I know you popped one of those pans out of the actual holder that it comes in. Is that magnetic, or it's just like a little kind of?
It's just kind of like a press fit. So it's just a little bit of a raised plastic, and it just pops right into that hole, if you can see that.
Yeah, I would say it pops right back in and out super easy. So that seems to be very nice. And it seems really, really secure too.
It is.
It's not going anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, you can tilt it upside down or just throw them in your bag or anything like that, and they'll be just fine in there. All right, guys, almost done with the iridescent, and then we'll move on to the pearlescent. I'm just taking a little bit of watercolor and kind of feathering over the areas where I've placed it, just to blend it out a little bit. And as you can see, that black paper, when it's wet and saturated, it's actually going to be a little bit darker, just because that water soaks into the paper. When it dries, it won't be darker. It'll be the same tone as the paper, but your metallic areas that you've painted will look pretty much the same. So that's pretty cool. All right. So the next step is going to be to add some of that pearlescent color in, and I'm going to be using the 24 set for this. And here is that Mystic flip-flop color that I was talking about earlier. That's one of the standard pigments. It's really pretty. It's kind of like green on one angle and like a dark burgundy brown on another. So
it's
these
really
ones,
amazing.
Yeah, it is. The flip-flop colors are really, really impressive. Definitely have to try them out if you're interested. Okay, so the first color that I'm going to add is the red. We have a little bit of a red reflection going on in the wings here. Now, again, these are going to be a little bit more opaque, so I can cover right over top of the iridescent color that I've already placed. And you can see how deliberate that is. I just kind of placed it with my brush. It stays exactly where I put it. And then I can go in with my wet watercolor brush. And if I want to blend out some of those edges and smooth out transitions, it's pretty easy just to feather right over top of that and get some pretty blends that way too. So they're pretty easy to layer up and extremely user-friendly too. So
now, maybe this is more of a question for Jeff. Do these FineTec colors actually come in tubes, or is it are they only in the pans?
They're only available in pans.
Gotcha.
But it really doesn't take too much water to make them wet and usable. I just like to spray them. It's pretty fast and easy, but you can just take a wet brush and work it into the top of the pan, and they should come right out. So
yeah, the color release is spectacular. I mean, the quality of gum arabic is a big part of that, but yeah, they're really easy and a pleasure to work with. You're not fighting the materials ever.
Yeah, I was gonna say the amount of kind of
bark, bark.
We're live, you know, it happens.
The puppy agrees 100%.
But yeah, the way that those do re-wet and how quickly you can work with them is just so impressive, and the colors are just stunning. Even just that little pop of yellow and the red in there, it's lovely, lovely color choice.
Yeah, and they're really great because you can just keep adding back into them as well. You know, if you didn't get the color that you wanted, if you need to add more, you can just add it in there wet, or you can wait for it to dry. I like to wait for it to dry just a little bit, and then I'll go back in and just continue to layer up that color. But yeah, they're definitely buildable, and you can really get a lot of variety out of them pretty quick.
Now, do you find when you do let the layers dry, if you were to go back in and scrub them, I mean, how much lifting is there?
A lot. I'll do a little bit off, or you know what, I'll scrub some right here off of the body. It's pretty dry, dry to the touch. So I'll just take a wet brush, and let's say I wanted actually like a little bit more shadow, because we're on that black paper. You can just take your wet brush and scrub it, and it just lifted right up.
Yep, that was beautiful.
So you can always, yeah, you just go back in and plug in whatever color you wanted to go there, and it's like it never happened. So extremely user-friendly watercolors.
Now,
Glad you showed that, Vic, too. The dispersal of the pigment when you dropped it into the water there too is really phenomenal.
Yeah, it evens itself out quite a bit. You don't have to worry about it kind of like blending through the water unevenly and looking kind of funky. It really has a lot of self-leveling, which is interesting.
now, somebody is asking, which brush are you using?
Oh, so I'm actually using the Princeton Neptune brushes. These are synthetic Kolinsky. They're extremely thirsty watercolor brushes. They make long rounds, script brushes. I highly recommend them. I love them. I basically just use them for everything. But yeah, they're really wonderful watercolor brushes because they hold a ton of water, and I like to use a lot of water and pigment when I paint, so you don't have to dip into the water as much.
Are fantastic brushes. I can attest to that. Now, somebody was asking, whenever you are done with a watercolor like this, would you varnish them or seal them in any way?
So I normally mount my watercolors onto birch panels. So I spray them with a UVLS protectant, acrylic like spray polymer varnish. A couple different brands make them. But yeah, you can do that. You can have it framed. It's basically like your standard watercolor. I don't think you have to, but you definitely can, right, Jeff? Or do you recommend it?
Yeah, you absolutely can. I think one thing to be cautious of whenever you're using specialty pigments like these, putting on a spray finish or any kind of varnish could alter the way that it reflects light. So I definitely recommend testing it first. So once you do that and you're satisfied with the results, then use it on your finished piece of work. But they're all good products. Yeah.
And I'm having Sherry ask, can you mix a pearlescent and an iridescent color together to come up with a unique kind of a color blend?
Absolutely. Yeah. So these colors can be used interchangeably. I was going to show how you can do that with the neon, just because you guys will be able to see it a little bit better. But I will definitely show you how you can do it with the iridescent and the pearlescent. You can also use regular watercolors to make your own shades as well. So a lot of different combination options. But so let's say I want to, oh no, you're good.
I was gonna say, so like if you were to take like that iridescent color and mix it into a normal color, you'd get the normal watercolor with just like that iridescent kind of a shift.
Exactly. Let me show you. So I have my standard white and black watercolor, and then I'm going to use just a 24 set of Rembrandt watercolors. Highly recommend if you're looking for a good set. Let's say I want to make a like iridescent purple color. So I can just dip directly into my blue, And you're going to want to mix this off to the side to make sure that you're not contaminating your watercolors. Because otherwise you'll end up with a little bit of sparkle in your standard set, which may be okay for some people, but some people don't want, metallic all the time. So there's my standard blue. Let's say I want to make a purple. I'm going to mix it with my interference red over here. So I'll just take some blue, and then I'm going to go into my interference red. Going to work it a little bit. Mix it off to the side here. Oops, I need a little bit more. That's where that water and letting it kind of soak in there kind of helps out. So there's our red. And let me just mix that blue in there a little bit more. But yeah, once it dries, you'll be able to see that those interference qualities, you're just going to see it better on the black paper than on the white because it's the interference color, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So that interference red pigment shows up really well on the black paper, but not so well on the white. I don't know if you can kind of see that purple tinge there.
Absolutely. It's coming across really pretty.
But if you do that with your standard pearlescent colors, you're going to get a lot more, you're going to see it right away. So let's say we don't have a green that we want for our beetle. Here's just the gold. And then let's mix that same blue, but this time into that gold. So now we have our own green there.
That is beautiful.
So just our own custom shade. So you have like a lot of different options. You can basically create any metallic watercolor you want out of these. I always like to show off the white because you can tint any watercolor you want with the white. So if you just want to try it, I highly recommend the pearlescent white, because let's say you want a orange, you can just mix a orange standard watercolor with that pearlescent white, and you're going to end up with a pearl orange. Pretty cool.
That is very cool. And now I'm going to have to go buy me some more FineTec.
I know, right? It's an addiction, and that's okay. So there's worse things to be addicted to. All right. So
Art. Love it.
All right. So last but not least, let's go in there with some of our neon colors.
Yes,
I know, right? The neon ones are so fun. The reason why I chose to do the neon last are because the neon colors kind of work based off of whatever color is beneath them. So they're going to be more effective if there's a little bit of a base that's underneath it. So I'm going to mix some of my yellow and green together to get some pretty beetle colors. And then I'm just going to layer it right on top of some of the color that we already have in place here. It's just going to kind of amp up that. Don't know if you can see that saturation right away.
Oh yeah, that just popped in the best way possible.
And
the color. Whew.
Yeah, and then once this, once I turn off all the lights in my studio too, then this will glow in the dark, which is pretty cool. So right away, that neon just kind of amped that up. And I want to show you guys how that looks on the white paper as well, because if you're doing an illustration on the black paper, I definitely recommend building up a little bit of a background to go underneath it. But on the white paper, you're going to see the effects of the neon right away. It's like a liquid highlighter, basically. So
it's so fun, so bright.
Yeah, really colorful. So if you want your neon colors to have that metallic look to them, then that's when you would go in with your pearlescent colors and kind of combine the two. So you could get a really pretty yellow gold neon kind of look, just depending on how wild you want to get right away. And I'll go ahead and plug some of that in to our beetle. because he's just going to be so magical, glow in the dark, neon, sparkly. So yeah, it's going to be really fun. So yeah, I have a bunch of different colors out. If anybody wants to see any specific colors or anything, I'm definitely happy to show that off as well.
Now, we do have a little bit of a delay, so I'm going to let those come in for just a second. But while that is, we're waiting for that.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking, would you, by any chance, seal this with Dorland's wax medium?
Oh, interesting. That's a good question for Jeff.
Yeah, I've heard of this kind of process for the watercolors. I've never tried it myself. These are traditional gum Arabic based watercolors. So anything that you would do with a traditional watercolor painting, you would be able to do with this. So you could use that same technique here. Again, I just caution, how it's going to affect the way the light interacts with the pigments. On these specialty pigments, but I think if you're pleased with the result in a test area, it should be fine for any finished work.
All right, so thank you so much for answering that. I'm also reading the colors that are coming in. So first one is pink.
Oh, okay. Do they want to see a pink that already exists?
Let's go with that.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So this one is in the 12 set. This one is a golden pink. It's one of the pearlescent colors. I will show you guys how that looks. It's one of my favorites. It's really pretty because it has kind of like a subtle gold mica in it, but overall it's definitely a pink color. So we can get some really pretty tones out of that. It kind of looks orange on the camera, but it's definitely pink in person. So that's how it looks on top of the white paper. And then here's on top of the black.
It's incredible how different the two colors are on just the different papers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's so important to play around with them on different backgrounds and yeah, see how they work. I definitely like to build up a couple different areas on my black watercolor paper that are a little bit more opaque, just so that I get all the differences between the different tones.
Now, is that the red that you just laid down?
Yeah, so that's the ruby color. The ruby is really pretty. I love how that one looks. You can always add a little bit of pearlescent white into that one if you're going for like a more baby pink.
Ooh, look at that color. That was actually the next one that somebody had asked for.
Oh, cool.
Wow, that is amazing. It seems like it's a very, very strong pigment.
Yeah, so some of them are definitely more opaque than others, but for the most part, the pearlescent colors are opaque. You just need one or two passes to make them completely opaque.
Look at how that gold is vibrating off that mix. Yeah, that one right there.
That one. This is the gold one that we mixed with just a little bit of blue standard watercolor.
Yeah.
How pretty
It's just like I was talking about, how as they dry, the effect seems to intensify.
Yeah. So yeah, like check out our rainbow stag beetle. He's got all sorts of different stuff going on, but you can definitely see the neon, how it kind of made some of the areas more matte, and then those metallics pop up around it, which is really interesting.
Oh yeah, somebody was saying if this beetle is neon, it glows in the dark, and it has sparkles, OMG, perfect.
I know, right?
Super happy about that. It is lovely and makes me so when I go paint.
Yes. That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, you can just keep layering it up, keep going to town. You can really add as many layers as you want. And then, yeah, like we were talking about earlier, if you feel like you've added too much, you can always go back in with that wet brush and kind of flush that area out too. So lots of different options with these paints. One more thing that's pretty cool too is the standard 12 set also comes with a black in it. Since we're using black paper, you can kind of use that as like an eraser to plug back in your shadows, but it will have a little bit of a metallic kind of sheen to it, which is pretty cool. You can also use black India ink if you want it to be more matte, but you can use it as an eraser to plug some different shapes back into your black paper. So if you've never tried using black paper, it's really fun. This black Van Gogh paper really allows you to layer everything up nicely. I definitely recommend trying it out, especially with gouache, and of course the FineTecs are really fun too. So
that black is really pretty, especially in person. It's almost like if you mix charcoal and graphite together and create this kind of metallic deep black.
Yeah, exactly. They also have like a galaxy black. I think I have it up to the side here. Let me see. Where do my swatches go?
Yeah, I might have to steal your swatch idea. Those are beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's this galaxy black here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's like a bunch of sparkles in it as well. It's one of the premium pigments. Highly recommend.
Across. Oh, that's beautiful.
It's so pretty. But here's some of the pinks and purples that already exist. If somebody wanted to see those, the sparkling pink is gorgeous. Has that same kind of effect. One of the more popular ones is also that Caribbean green or Caribbean green. That's in the standard 12 set as well. So and here's that golden rose color I showed off.
Ooh, that's pretty.
So pretty. So
now, by any chance, is there a possibility of seeing any kind of a black light action? We didn't actually talk about that before.
I don't have a black light, but I do have I can turn off my lights and see if that works for you guys. Let me see what I can do here.
I hope, because it might not come across on the camera. So if we do get a chance to see that, that would be great. If not, shamelessly plug your Instagram and make sure that people go check it out there.
Oh, I can see it. I don't know if you guys can see it. I hope you can.
A little bit. I feel like it is glowing, but it is a little bit harder to read on camera, which I think is just the camera.
I do live in Tucson and it's like 3 o'clock here. So even though all my blinds are shut, it's probably just super bright still, but I can see a little bit of purpley action happening. But yeah, otherwise that glow in the dark effect, you can really see clearly on my Instagram, Vic Hollins art. It's that glow bug piece. I just have a video of turning off the lights and you can see all of their little glowing back ends.
Yes, so everyone go to her Instagram and make sure you check that out.
Okay.
Follow.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I wish I had a black light for you guys.
That's okay.
But you can definitely Google it. There are pictures of it online that are pretty cool of those neon colors glowing in the dark. So.
Well, that's the slide I shared showed it under black light too.
Yes, and that was so bright and vibrant. It's absolutely gorgeous. Trying to make sure I got all of the questions because I believe we are about running out of time. We do have some people requesting the FineTec makes some acrylics because we need this in acrylics.
No acrylics, although shamelessly plug the Amsterdam acrylics and pearlescent colors because I find them to be really successful in mixtures as well as straight out of the tube. They're really strong, opaque acrylics.
And we have all those interference colors by Amsterdam that you can mix in that are really gorgeous. So if you guys like acrylic paint, that's wonderful stuff.
Very, very true. And I believe, if memory serves me correctly, Jeff, you can tell me here. I believe we had a demo on it at a previous Jerry's Live where you were showing those off. So if you want to check out those acrylics, make sure you do that and go look at one of those, the previous Jerry's Lives. I will make sure to go back through and link that for you when we make sure to go back through the comments. But that is about all of the time that we have, guys. We did have, oh, I'm sorry, one last question that came through right at the very end here. What size and what pound of paper is that Van Gogh paper?
So it comes in, I think, 2 different sizes. It's 100% cellulose, 140 pound, and it has a little bit of a linear texture on it. But yeah, I don't know the exact sizes off the top of my head. Do you know, Jeff?
Well, they're European sizes, A3 and A4, so they're roughly 9 by 12 and it's like 11 by 14, almost 12 by 16. So they're the A3, A4.
Awesome. Well, let me change the view here so we can all sign off one last time. All right, guys. Thank you guys seriously so much for joining me on the show. Vic, it was wonderful having you on with the demo. That was really beautiful to watch.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys, for having me. I really appreciate it. I had a wonderful time.
Thank you so much, Vic. It was awesome.
Yes, we'll definitely have to have you guys back on.
Yes.
But, we will, if I didn't get to any of your, if I didn't get to your questions that you popped in the chat, we will make sure to go through and answer those in writing. And of course, after about 24 hours, this video is going to be uploaded to YouTube to be rewatched later. So if you guys didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing, you guys can check it out there. But that was all of the time, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I definitely thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm gonna have to go get some FineTec.
Thank you, Emmy. This is great. Always glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely. And we will see you all next week. Make sure you do join me. I am going to be live this Thursday for Open Studio Hours. And then next week, we are going to continue on with the water soluble oil portrait of my dog that I started last week. So we're going to be glazing some colors onto a rainbow puppy, pretty much. So I hope to see you guys then. And thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.